Today, the head of the Pentagon made an urgent statement about Iran that has already shocked many people. Amid scandals regarding the extent of damage to Iranian nuclear facilities involving the United States of America, today United States Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth held an urgent briefing where he unequivocally stated Iran's nuclear facilities have been completely destroyed. The same was confirmed by the head of the United States Armed Forces General Staff. The International Atomic Energy Agency cautiously stated that the Fordo facility is no longer operational. Nevertheless, the head of the United States Central Intelligence Agency suddenly disagreed with both Trump and the head of the Pentagon, stating that Iran's nuclear program has only been partially destroyed, not eliminated. But what's even more important here is not that, but the new conditions for reaching a nuclear deal with Iran set by the United States. Now Washington is demanding that Iran abandon uranium enrichment and remove any already enriched uranium from the country. And Washington is also demanding that Iran shut down its entire missile program, which Iran, of course, will not agree to voluntarily. That's why there is already talk about a new United States strike on Iran. My name is Alexei Pecci, and today is June 26th. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like the video, leave any comment, and be sure to subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pecci News. The link to it is in the description of this video. There we post breaking news as it comes in, and sometimes they come out there earlier than here on YouTube. So I'm going to start this episode not with a statement from the White House or the head of the Pentagon, but with a statement from Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Today he finally released a written address to the nation. And in his first comments after the Iran-Israel conflict ended with a ceasefire, Iran's supreme leader congratulated the great nation of Iran on its victory over the so-called fake Zionist regime. Next is a direct quote from Khamenei. Despite all this noise and all these statements, the Zionist regime almost collapsed and was crushed by the blows of the Islamic Republic. The United States got involved in the conflict with Israel, well, on Israel's side, because they felt that if they didn't get involved, the Zionist regime would be destroyed. However, the Americans gained nothing in this war. Well, in short, according to Ali Khamenei, Iran defeated everyone, almost everything was destroyed, but they stopped just in time. But Khamenei still voiced a sensible idea. According to him, the United States of America makes it clear that in the end, they are aiming for the complete surrender of Iran. Quote, Trump showed the truth, making it clear that the Americans will only be satisfied with the capitulation and defeat of Iran and nothing else. And then Khamenei added that the United States has had fundamental problems with the Iranian regime since the Islamic Revolution of 1979, which brought him to power. Let us add that Washington has been disguising its goals for many years, accusing Iran of, quote, human rights violations, then women's rights, then uranium enrichment, then the main nuclear program, and then the issue of missile production. Next is a direct quote from Khamenei. But in his statement, Trump revealed the truth. He showed his hand. Previous United States presidents didn't say this because it's unacceptable and illogical to tell a nation to surrender. They come up with various excuses, but essentially they want Iran to surrender. Well, getting a bit ahead of myself, I'll say that there are already rumors that the United States is preparing a new attack on Iran by the end of the summer. Well, let's take it one step at a time. As previously announced by Donald Trump, United States Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth held a press conference at the Pentagon today, where he spoke about the strikes the United States carried out against Iran over the past weekend. Hegseth immediately sharply criticized the media coverage of the early intelligence assessments of the consequences of Saturday's bombing of Iranian nuclear facilities. And here is his quote. I hope that despite all the ink that has been spent, all your media will find the time to properly acknowledge this. A historic change in continental security that other presidents tried to achieve, that many presidents talked about before, but President Trump accomplished it. This is a huge deal. Again, what the media wrote about was a preliminary conclusion made a day and a half after the actual strike. Although it itself admitted in writing that it takes weeks to collect the necessary data to make such an assessment, the president created the conditions to end the war by completely destroying, choose the appropriate word, completely destroying or demolishing Iran's nuclear potential. Along with Pete Hegseth, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Den Keane, also spoke, as is now tradition. He emphasized that the operation against Iran's nuclear facilities went according to plan, and the bombs that were dropped worked exactly as intended. That is, they exploded. Next, I will quote General Keane. I want to note right away that the joint forces do not assess battle damage. By design, we do not evaluate our own work. That is done by the intelligence community. But here is what we know after the attacks and strikes on Fordo. First, the weapons were manufactured, tested, and loaded properly. Second, our weapons were launched at a certain speed and with specific parameters. Third, all the weapons were aimed at the designated targets and intended aiming points. Fourth, the weapons functioned as intended, meaning they detonated. We know this through other intelligence means that we have, which were visible, we could see them, and we know that the following aircraft saw the first weapon detonate. In the days leading up to the attack on Fordo, the Iranians tried to seal the shafts with concrete in an attempt to prevent the attack. I won't disclose the specific dimensions of the concrete cap, but you should know that we know what the dimensions of those concrete caps were. The planners had to take that into account, and they did. The cap was forcibly removed by the first weapon, and the main shaft was blown up. At the same time, Rafael Grossi, the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, which oversees the United Nations' nuclear sector, stated that the centrifuges at Fordo, one of Iran's most important uranium enrichment facilities, are no longer operating after the United States strikes. A quote about Grota. Based on satellite images, we can draw fairly accurate conclusions about the consequences of the bombing. Given the power of these bombs and the technical characteristics of the centrifuges, we know that they are no longer operational simply because of the vibration, which causes significant and serious physical damage. I know the plant very well. It's a network of tunnels with different types of activities. What we saw in the photos matches the enrichment hall. That's what was hit. Well, the director of the United States Central Intelligence Agency, John Redcliffe, stated that Iran's nuclear program suffered serious damage as a result of recent United States strikes on Iranian infrastructure facilities. Redcliffe's statement specifically refers to serious damage, not the destruction of Iran's nuclear program, as the White House claims. Therefore, the disagreements between Donald Trump's administration and American intelligence over the consequences of the attack on Iran have intensified. That is, at this point, none of the intelligence agencies have officially confirmed President Trump's and Defense Secretary Hegseth's statements about the complete destruction of the facilities. Nevertheless, Trump has already announced new talks with Iran for next week. And now, sources in Oman have confirmed that they are already preparing a new round, although Iran has not yet confirmed its participation. But those same sources have already revealed the outlines of the future deal from the United States. There are only 3 key points. First, there can be no uranium enrichment in the future. Second, all already enriched uranium must be handed over, that is, removed from Iran. And the third point is a limitation on the range of the missiles being developed. This is essentially a security guarantee that Iran will not be able to further produce ballistic missiles. As you understand, Iran will never voluntarily agree to this. And this means that a new round of war is inevitable. And through diplomatic channels, the Americans have already conveyed this. Either a deal or new strikes until you're ready to sign a new deal. In this, Khamenei is right. As I already said, yes, the United States is waiting for Iran's surrender. I've already talked on this YouTube channel about how the window of opportunity will close by the end of the summer. If Iran doesn't make a deal, France and the United Kingdom have a tool at the United Nations, a mechanism to return to comprehensive sanctions at the United Nations Security Council level, which neither the Russian Federation nor China will be able to block. But this tool can only be used until October. After that, it has to be put to a vote in the United Nations Security Council, where the Russians will definitely block the decision. So it looks like if the Iranians don't capitulate by the end of the summer, as they say, there will be a new war. At the same time, Donald Trump stated that nothing was removed from Iran's nuclear facilities before the United States strikes last weekend. Since now, experts are wondering whether Iran was able to remove any of its stocks of highly enriched uranium from the attack zone in advance. And here I quote Trump because it's very important in the context of what General Kane was saying. The cars and small trucks on site belong to the concrete workers who were trying to seal the tops of the shafts. Nothing was being removed from the facility. It would have taken too much time, it would have been too dangerous, and it would have been very heavy and difficult to move. That is essentially in this way. Trump confirmed the words of Chief of Staff Kane that before the attack, the Iranians actually tried to concrete the entrances to the tunnels in order to protect this nuclear facility as much as possible. So I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this channel, you can do so with any donation using the links and details in the description of this video or by using the QR code on your screen. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.